You're good. You're good. Maybe don't get it.
Is there hockey?
Yeah. I support that. We got so now we get started on it's not a super back like the side that's pretty much all we know and which is okay. I get yeah.
I know. It's
Are we building a house? Are we building a house? So Dubai. That's what we just.
Mostly like family numbers, so I have to a certain
We'll see, we did, you know.
What day?
No, I'm just with you guys.
it's good.
Yes, we I do for 26. Yeah, when the 26th.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Yeah, we have to.
April 2nd was great.
But
April 2nd is good.
and that. What's on the
Yeah.
something April 2nd.
Yes, that's the last day, that's not the week.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yes, I gave her a timeline. I get. Oh, I can't do the second.
Because everybody knows there's only. There's something or there's something.
Right.
That's like people get this. Here.
Bob calling in. Beth, yeah, is Bob calling in?
Really?
Only thing is.
I'm sitting over here so I can watch it.
Right.
Okay.
If we're paying attention.
Take your notes.
So I'm on.
Might tip over. Might tip over. But it's.
Fighting it. There he is. I'm so glad you're here. Don't ask you questions. Don't have any. Oh, okay.
Any of our.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's where. No, no, I got, tipping off here, but I had fees and there was a reason to leave. But my intent was to put it in the budget. So that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. It was in my list.
Recreation Committee. Amy?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Just a couple project updates I wanted to provide to you guys quickly tonight. The Wassamasaw Playground is wrapping up. We are still waiting on the playground mulch and the fence to be finished. But we have scheduled a ribbon cutting for February 19th at 4 o'clock. Yeah, thank you, Beth. March 19th. It's been a busy month. The next project is the Doty Splash Pad. They started on this last month. They did get pulled away to another job, but they are back as of today. So you'll start seeing progress on that project again as well. That project, I don't have a tentative finish date, but most likely it will be early summer. And then the last project I just quickly wanted to share with you guys was the Gahagan retaining wall around the press box. There was two, almost like an L-shaped wall that was failing. Over time, it had the pressure from the concrete and dirt had caused it to start bowing out. That project was finished and has been repaired. Any questions about projects? Okay. The next item on the agenda is just a discussion of resident discount pricing for programming. Ms. Johnson Wilson had approached me about this topic. It's something that is fairly standard practice for municipalities, other government agencies in this area. Looking at that, my recommendation to you all would be that we would consider a 20% discount for residents. And we could incorporate that into our fees structure that we approve through the budgeting process. And then we could roll that out starting July 1st, if that's something that council wants us to pursue.
I'd like to discuss it a little bit. I just noticed that the county has just instituted theirs, and it's double for people out of the area. So maybe we look at that a little bit.
And that would be a 20% increase from our current price. Our current residents would get the same pricing that's currently offered. Non-residents, it would be 20% more. Is that right?
Correct. And that would only apply to programs. We would keep our current fee structure for athletics leagues because we already currently have the differential pricing for those.
But we'll give preference to Dorchester and Berkeley County.
I'm sorry?
We'll give preference to Dorchester and Berkeley County.
No, sir. We would be giving preference to town of Summerville residents. They would be the ones receiving the 20%, the fee that's basically essentially about 20% less. If you live outside of the town of Summerville limits, then you would pay approximately 20% more for programming.
Okay.
And I don't think we need to make a motion today. If you guys say that's something you want me to include, I'll put that in, just incorporate it into our fees, because you guys will approve that as part of the budget process
Okay.
with the budget.
Anybody else have anything?
So we do not need to motion on that, you say?
No, because you'll have to approve our fees and changes as part of the budget process. So at that time, you guys could just approve it then.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait, no, we've got a couple more items. I'm sorry. Item C is discussion to use park and recreation impact fees for the design of a custom concrete skate park. This topic is something that we've talked about for several years now, and it is certainly is one of the items that I had planned to budget for this coming budget cycle. And the thought was that, well, if the funding is coming from impact fees, is that something we could do now if council was comfortable, or we could wait, whichever you would prefer.
I think I'd like to wait to the budget retreat so we can get priorities on everything we're doing. And I think just because it's impact fees, I think we need to plan ahead with what we do for those, for the bigger vision.
And the Parks and Rec impact fee for the design of the skate park, I think we said around 15,000. And that money is currently in the impact fee fund, correct?
It is, yes.
Okay.
I guess another question is, we talk about that later. Why can't we pick somewhere that's already made that you like and avoid the design fees?
Well, I think with our site, we have a lot of limitations, just based on the size and the shape of that land. So I think we would have a hard time picking one, like I hear a lot of great things about the Florence skate park. I think we would have a hard time just picking that up and dropping it on our property. It's certainly something we could look. I could reach out to, the company that built that one and talk to them.
Yeah, because as we move into the budget retreat, we're also going to be talking about properties we own.
Okay.
And what we want to do with them, and that might be part of that discussion.
In that Parks and Rec impact fee, where, for that, the design of that skate park, we were also considering putting a bike loop around the skate park to make it multi-purpose, and to recoup some money by having events there and competitions and things like that. Is the park in Florence that you mentioned, does that have that skate park bike loop capabilities with it?
I couldn't say for sure, but I do not believe it has that pump track around it.
Yes.
I'd love to see us move forward with it, but I don't know where the rest of the committee.
I really can't make a decision, because we don't know what's coming. We have a lot of park things already in the mill that would like to finish out. And we have streets and sidewalks that people would like crossroads on. There is just so many different things we could do that I think it's best we wait till everybody can talk about it together and agree on a plan, and then we can move forward.
Okay, and just to confirm, if you can correct me, Parks and Rec impact fees can only be used for new parks and rec, correct? Not sidewalks or crosswalks.
Yes, that's correct. Or expansion of existing facilities to accommodate growth.
But with all the things, especially the last list of accident I've seen, we may be doing a lot of crosswalks. And one thing impact fees can be used on is equipment. So that we can get to our parks safely.
Equipment, what we can use Parks and Rec impact fees for equipment?
There's some limitations for equipment. It does also have to be on the CIP plan. So if it's not listed on the CIP plan, it would not be eligible for impact fees as well.
Let me ask you one thing about the Wausau Salt Playground.
Yes, sir.
How close are we now to getting completed?
To getting,
Close are you getting to getting completed?
the playground install is finished. We're just waiting on the mulch, which will be here this week. And then they'll be wrapping up the fence as well this week. The ribbon cutting is March 19th.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir. Just to let you all know as well, it is the skate park. The funding is on the finance agenda for tonight.
Yes, so the last item is authorization.
The last item is D, is authorization for staff to explore grant opportunities for the design of an environmental education center at the Summerville Preserve. Just to be clear, I'm not aware of any grants at this time. This was just that, should we see something that we would have the flexibility and the support to go ahead and apply for those grants to design and plan for a future.
For myself, you're fine to any time go ask for money. I have no problem with that a bit. And yes, I'd like to see this, maybe kind of what I base mine on, my vision, even though it was a long time ago, maybe called Florence. Because I believe they built theirs almost for no taxpayer money. And also for the budget retreat, maybe you could put a Parks and Recreation grant writer in your vision,
That's a full-time position.
at least part-time.
Well, would that have to, that would have to be voted on, correct?
They would have to be part of the budget. But I know Pam has got plenty to do just to figure out the past grants and stuff. Just keeping track of what was is difficult enough.
Both Goose Creek and North Charleston have had great success in hiring a sponsorship. Person for both of the projects, and raised off quite a bit of money by hiring in a sponsorship. for their work.
And maybe you give her a call and find out what, because she did a great job. Okay, do I hear a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We get done.
That one's on the
I
screen.
like your green. You look so bright.
Some people say yellow, some people say green.
I mean,
Some people call it yellow, some people call it green.
it's kind of lime.
I call the planning committee meeting into order. And Ms. Jessie.
Thank you. First and only item we have on the agenda is approval of site plan and buffers for 160 Community Road. This is for the Summerville Commissioners of Public Works storage yard. It's zone PL, which is why council has to approve those items.
They're really not expanding or anything. They're just moving things around, aren't they?
No, they are expanding because the timeline that it now takes to get pipe and those types of things, they're having to order well in advance. And so they need additional area for like a lay down yard, basically, to keep those materials until they're needed. So that they're not having to hold up their projects waiting on the materials to be
Is that
delivered.
on the other side of the road?
Yes.
Yeah, so their current
Okay.
properties on the, across the street, this is property they bought and rezoned last year, and they are now looking to kind of clear an area to use for that on this property. So that's what's happening.
You don't happen to know if the cars are gone? Do
What's that?
you know if the cars vacated the building or are they still there? Never mind.
I don't think the cars that were in the building are, yeah,
Yeah.
there is an existing building on site that they will be utilizing. And so the buffer they're proposing is 15 feet, which the building is already about, I think like 14 feet away. So, and
Yeah,
they'll be
I-
leaving the
that's-
vegetation in that area.
I spoke to them about the buffer and the fence and the between them and the residential properties over there, and everybody's on board with that, so
Make a motion, we move it to full council for approval.
I'll second. All in favor?
I,
Aye. A motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to.
I'll second. All in
Oh.
favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. I didn't know she wanted the middle seat.
Oh, thank you. I call to order the Public Works and Committee on Water Supply. I was gonna say Miss Bonnie, but Miss Bonnie, you've changed.
Huh? Go for it.
Okay, so we're looking at starting a pilot program for yard debris. For either this year or the coming year. The issue we're having is we're going so far out now with these loaders and these trucks. The wear and tear, they're not really built to go that far, the distance driving. It's causing a lot of issues with repairs and breakdowns. And it's causing a lot of money as well. Replacing these pieces of equipment is expensive. Y'all know that. I've talked with several different places, some towns and cities, municipalities, local, a little bit further out that have started this program. Try to get some answers from them, the ones I could talk to. It seems to be working for them. They started off with a small amount of neighborhoods, 1 or 2 neighborhoods, just to try to program out. What they're doing is taking rear loading trash trucks that you would see picking up your household garbage most of the time. And they are supplying, well, some municipalities are supplying paper bags. Some are using containers, different situations like that, but everything's bagged. And the guys are going through and picking it up. So instead of having 3 pieces of equipment out in the neighborhood with a truck, a loader, 5 guys, we're looking at 3 guys and 1 truck and going around picking up the same amount of neighborhoods, and have to, with the same amount of time or less time. So with that, I mean, you're saving 1 piece of equipment versus 3 pieces of equipment. You've got 3 guys versus 5 guys. You've got the fuel. The rear loader will actually hold just as much yardage as both of our yard debris trucks. So instead of making 8 trips to the shop that day, they'll be making 4 trips to the shop. So we're saving time, money, and fuel on that as well. Obviously, the insurance on more vehicles and everything else. There's a bunch of different pros to it, the cons to it. Obviously, upfront money. Do we want to go with trash bags? Do we want to go with trash cans? What neighborhoods do we want to start in? The further out we go. So if we have neighborhoods that are coming on Lawrenceburg Road, next inside, further out towards Oak Brook, I mean, Heatherwood's quite a ways out there to start with. And then we've got Limehouse Plantation on Dorchester Road, that much further. White Gables, it's just getting further out. So we're going to have to come up with something different. We got the same amount of staff that we've always had for the past 20 years. And we need to do something different. With this program, on the second page, it states how many homes are in certain neighborhoods that I just decided to pull out of a hat and I thought would be good. They didn't have a lot of big trees. They've got mostly grass clippings, some vegetation around the house and their flower beds and different things like that they normally get rid of. I think certain areas like that would be great to start this pilot program in, to give it a HOA, see if they're interested in it, see if it's something we want to do. So, and the number of houses are in that area. On the last page, I think this is the city of Rock Hill. They've done it. It kind of shows what they've done and how they're doing it. It's just an idea. We don't have to do it like they do it, obviously, but it gives you an idea what's going on and how things are changing. So that's really about it. Any questions?
This is just for yard debris.
Right now, this is just for yard debris, yes. And there are going to be places in town where we will probably always have to have a loader.
Yeah, I was one of the questions I had. I guess, naturally this isn't going to work for the limbs and the
Of course not.
tree branches and
course
things like that. of that
What-
size, so.
What we're looking at is the neighborhoods that are getting further out,
They
you know,
don't have the
that
canopy that.
have no, old pine trees that are dropping leaves everywhere or whatever the case may be.
Limbs and
This is new neighborhoods and neighborhoods that have a minimum amount of trees in them.
No. Yep.
And even during a situation like that, if there comes up to where they have a pile of limbs or a tree comes down, yes, we will need to send a loader out there and a truck out there, but for the minimum amount of times a year that we're doing that, I mean, we're saving a lot.
That can almost be like a call in like you do for bulks.
Oh,
Right, it would be like a call.
I was gonna say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
So
what you're saying.
these, the cons, the cost of these containers, you're saying that either we would buy the containers and supply them, or we would buy the paper bags, or is our customer buying? these
So
items?
that's the question I mean, that's really left up to y'all on which way you'd want to proceed with it. I just put down some cost on what, 45-gallon containers cost right on up to 95-gallon. Those prices can be less depending on where you get them from, obviously. I'm sure we'd get a discount on the bigger trash cans, and the more you buy, the cheaper it is. The brown paper bags, I mean, that's actually the cheapest route to go. If we wanted to start this and, supply, say, we're going to do bags, and we supply the bags for the first year, just to see how the pilot program works.
Right.
And then if it takes off, like it has in these other municipalities, I've talked with some of them that, so as soon as it started happening, people started calling in after about the first couple of months and said, well, how do we do this? How do we get on this program? We're not running tractors and stuff up and down the roads. We're just a one crew going in there at this time. And, even people will put their yard debris on top of a catch basin. They'll put their yard debris on top of a, fire hydrant. We've had that before. We've had all kind of different instances. Okay. And different accidents happen.
I guess that the Carolina waste that you've compared it to, for household garbage, I'm not understanding that comparison.
Well, that comparison was, okay, if you were to contract this out and try to get somebody else to do this, that's what it would cost. This is what it cost us a month to pick up household garbage. Okay, so if you want to look at that number and go, do you think the yard debris is going to be any different priced? No, it's probably going to be close to the same, if not more.
And we do that currently though, with current.
The household garbage, we do not pick up.
Right,
Mhm.
but the yard
The
debris.
yard debris, we do pick up.
In some ways, I really like this because I know one complaint that I get is with some of our equipment that comes out and then they're picking up, it scrapes on the road, and then it damages the road, and then we have to go mend the road. And sometimes it goes into the person's yard and it takes up part of their sod, and then they have to resod. I know a lot of municipalities have the bags, which is nice, but I know that some of our customers are not gonna like that because they're gonna have to bag that, and that's different. They've never had to do that here before. So that there definitely is pros and cons. We definitely have to talk about this as a whole council. I'd like to know the municipalities. I know you say the different things that they do. Do they have the containers or do they have the brown bags? And what do the people, what's the feedback? Would they rather want a container or a bag?
I actually spoke with somebody this morning. It was in the city of Charleston, and until this morning, I didn't realize that they picked it up with a rear loader. But they do the paper bags, and because they didn't want another container to be at their house, because you've got your household garbage and you've got your recycling, so that's 2 containers. Now there's going to be a third one. We don't want a third one, so we're going to do bags. I think it would be something that you can opt in or opt out of. And even if every neighborhood doesn't want to do it, if it was an HOA, to said, okay, let's talk about this and let's do it. This neighborhood may want to do it. This neighborhood may not, but we can set up a route to pick up everything. And like you said, it's saving wear and tear on the roads as well. Because we do have certain accidents that happen. I mean, fences get hit from time to time, different things happen, but.
And so the same equipment that would pick up a container could also take the brown bags?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good thing, because I'm almost certain that all the HOAs, they're all gonna disagree within their own HOA. No,
yeah.
I want this, I want that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be a good option if you want a container or if you want to do bags yourself.
And I
if
mean,
you-
we can still pick up sticks, small sticks. We already have an ordinance where we can't pick anything up over 4 foot and I think 6 inches in diameter, but And in a situation like that, we can still pick up some of that as well and throw right into that truck and keep going.
Okay.
We just can't pick up, if somebody decides to cut down or limit a tree completely,
Right.
that's going to take a loader.
And I would say, just like you said, something like a call-in, like for white
Right.
goods and everything like that. Overall, I like this idea. I think that we need to talk about it and kind of package it a little bit better.
So I'm understanding correctly, on the mid-year budget, we've got almost $800,000 worth of equipment that we're being asked to get now. And now this would be an additional 364,000 on top of that. Is that correct?
Well, it was proposed at a midterm budget meeting. I can't remember if they found a way to pay for that or not, but yes. Yes.
This would be in addition to that.
And if we were to get this new truck, would one of our other trucks, would we just keep those, or is that something that we possibly even could?
No, we would start,
surplus? Okay,
we'd start getting rid of those trucks.
I see.
We'd start getting rid of a loader or two.
So the ones we have now, you still need to buy those. Those are replacements. The ones that were up discussed at mid-year, those are more or less replacements.
Yeah.
For older equipment. I looked at ones like
They are.
2002 models, so.
I mean,
replacing.
quite
And we're still gonna
honestly,
need those.
yes.
In the future.
we have,
So, well, some of, like, this one wasn't new. There was a-
I get you.
we have, we actually have two loaders right now.
Right.
The rear ends, they're fairly new loaders,
Mhm.
and the rear ends have went out then. You're looking at $10,000 before we can get them back on. We're trying to run all the yard debris routes and the bulk right now with 3 loaders. And we're picking a bunch of it up by hand in small trucks and splitting different crews up that don't normally do that, to do concrete and asphalt, to go help and do this.
No, I want to applaud you first, Mark, just for doing a good job and for thinking outside the box to come with an idea and to solve a problem that we have. You're struggling with equipment that's just broken down, and
Well,
our
thank you.
our citizens, of course, are upset that trash didn't get picked up but so I appreciate what you're doing, for sure.
Well, thank you.
You're trying hard, I know.
I just feel like it's time we start going in another direction. Some people wanted us to have mentioned, the clam loaders with the arms in the truck. That's never been really reasonable for us.
Mhm.
I mean, to pull up, set outriggers down, take the time to get this, and then you've got to get it, rake it up, shovel it up by hand. I mean, there's no way we can get it done.
Now, will you guys, if we do this, will you guys still be out there and rake a little bit too? And
Well, I mean, if you do a situation like this, you cut out the rakers.
I guess.
There's no need to rake. You don't
got
have
the
any
bag,
trash in the
yeah.
street. You cut out the streets. I mean, in a lot of cases, we have our street sweeper set up to where he goes in certain neighborhoods that are usually really heavy with yard debris, because they can rake up so much and that's all they can rake up. And then he goes behind and sweeps up. We have one street sweeper to take care of the whole town. It's not really fair for every neighborhood that may need to be swept, but that's what we have. With this situation here, you should cut out the majority of that,
I know, I think Rock Hill actually has it as well. A lot of the municipalities have compost programs that they're finding saves between 11 and 15% as well. Have we ever looked at anything like that?
So in the past, I'm gonna try to remember. I think it came down to, where are we going to put this? Are we going to allow individuals to come off the street onto our property? Is the insurance going to cover this? What's the liability of it? Somebody getting hurt on here? When are we going to have it open for them to come? Is it going to be a weekend thing? Or we had somebody work the weekend to load these people? Are they going to shovel it by hand? It was a lot of, what if this happens, and the liability part of it. And we decided not to do that for those reasons.
I'd like
If I
us to
remember.
maybe explore that again. I know a lot of places are successfully doing it and they're all doing it different ways. I'd love for us to be able to explore that and just see how they're doing it, and saving some money in other areas.
Well, I will also tell you this, when you do a mulch pile or a compost pile, you have to have a facility to where we can store this and put it. It has to be turned. That's if we don't grind it before we call it, a mulch pile or whatever you want to call it. And that takes time, and it takes somebody to go over there and turn this thing. I mean, it can sit there for a year and yeah, it'll rot down, but it's got to be turned and somebody's got to beer load it. And you've got to separate sticks from leaves. It's a lot to it, really. I mean, if you had a grinder, you could just grind everything up, spit it out over here on the side. That would be fine, but that's expensive too. We'd actually talked about getting a grinder at one time, and but it wasn't cost efficient.
The startup costs were what was killing that program. I
Yeah.
remember this front costs it take to get into the business.
That's right.
My only other question is, and I guess one of the rest of council, do we need this to go to full council before Mark can just try it?
I think we need to talk about it full council, and I think that I don't know if it can wait until our budget meeting to talk more about and because the cost of the truck and how we can factor that in.
I guess that's the thing. Yeah, we don't have any equipment to do it right now, do we?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Sorry.
Yeah.
with us buying.
I think this is a great start
And
for us to really just start thinking about.
I think it would be a good idea to reach out to some of these HOAs and see if they would be interested in it. I don't think we want to force anybody quite yet. I think it would be smarter to talk with them,
Mhm.
see what their thoughts are on it, because we do have, people call in, they're scraping the road. How can we do this? What it is? They always have something, they always have their own idea how to make it better. So
Yeah.
I think, if we pitch this to them and like I said, if we bought the bags for the first year to get it started and they pick up after that, we could offer containers. We cannot offer containers, whatever the person want in that neighborhood, and go from there.
And my next question is, how is that going to be done? Do you have a list of all the HOAs and presidents?
No,
Is that something that you want our
but I'm sure we can run them down.
Chris to do, like publicly put something out, or did you want the council members to call up their? I mean, and all of our neighborhoods don't have HOAs either,
Right,
so I
right.
mean, but I see that you did give it
Yeah,
certain ones here, but
but yeah, not everybody has an HOA for sure. And I don't want to call any names off of this list, but there are a couple on there that I think would be great for a pilot program to start with. And just like I said, any new developments that are coming in, they're going to have an HOA to start with, I would believe. And that would be a good time to pitch it to them and say, this is what we're doing now. You're so much further out. We'd like to try this and go forward with it as well. So in other words, this is not an overnight
right.
thing. This is something we need to, put out, see if anybody's interested in it, see what their thoughts are, instead of just saying, this is how we're going to do it from this point forward.
Well, I think this is definitely something we can send to full
Yeah.
council for Thursday night.
You want to do
If
that?
someone wants to make a
You
motion.
want to wait till the budget retreat? and put it on the agenda?
Well, I think we can
Yes,
put it on the agenda for Thursday night, and then we can talk about it a little bit more.
Okay.
If someone wants to make a motion to put it on the agenda.
I'll move to add this to the agenda for Thursday night with discussion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
And thanks for the innovation and thinking of something. That's great. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mark.
All right. I think. Oh, yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the discussion of a proposed temporary lease agreement for a portion of the town-owned property adjacent to the parking garage to use as a lay-down area for the redevelopment and construction of 118 West Richardson, which is the old Century 21 building. We're trying to be proactive with this. This project is going to the BAR in April. So no plans have been approved yet. Construction's not going to start, next week, but we want to get ahead of it because it will be a big deal. So they're going to have to remove walls and have, a crane and block off a portion of the street just for a temporary time. But This right here, I don't know if y'all have that site logistics plan
Mhm.
where there's some orange areas. The red line represents construction fencing. And that orange area that is in front of the parking garage is where it's proposed to be the laydown area. And then, of course, that alleyway will be closed down.
Will this be before or after the Flower Town Festival?
After, because it's not, the project's not going to the BAR until their April meeting.
Okay, you said alleyway is going to be closed off. Which alleyway?
The one that's between the garage and the building.
Okay, all right. And I see that you have these arrows on here. Are you just showing the flow of traffic? Is that what you're showing?
Yes, ma'am.
Or the way the trucks are going to go? If
That
there's-
is the flow of traffic. And any specifics, Mr. Justin Lee with Gilbert and Lee, the contractor, is here and can help answer a lot of these questions.
Okay.
How long is your project, Justin? How long is the project slated? You know, or I guess you don't know yet. You don't have a plan yet, so.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to do 5 months. We had it set for 6.5. Try to cut about 45 days off the schedule.
Okay.
But then we have the interior upfits to follow with the overlap as well, based on getting drawings in simultaneously. So I would probably say 6.5 to 7 months max. The lease agreement is for 6.
Okay, so that's the only, it's just for facade you need the lease agreement for and,
I just needed to.
yeah.
put 2 floors and have
Right.
a little place to get stuff off the
Yeah,
street, so I
yeah.
can move trucks off the street quickly and not have them sit
And-
there
and leave.
in the road, you know, especially for the
Right.
patrons and for the
Mhm.
restaurants to get their food
Yeah.
deliveries and all that. I don't want to take up any street.
Right.
And my question is, after all that stuff is removed, are you going to be replacing some of our sod that's there?
That is within the lease agreement. We spoke about, I had an arborist I met out there today, giving a full tree protection plan of the trees adjacent to the road and the one in the laydown area. It was a little ambiguous how it was worded. I think it was the town of Summerville. I will bring it back to how you guys would like it to be. And I was like, if you could just narrow that verbiage down to that, that'd be great. But yeah, as long as, you know, sod, trees, you know, whatever we need to do, pine straw, I'll bring it back to original condition.
Okay. And you said there's going to be a crane to move that or some type of, because you're not going to have to go up on the sidewalk with a,
There's a little misconception on the crane. The crane is gonna be there from probably 6 or 7 a.m. for a total of 2 hours on one day to lift 2 RTUs on the roof. That will be the only crane activity. I backpedaled a little bit on the grease trap in the back. We're gonna try to use a plastic tank and seek approval on that for the sake of getting it where it needs to go behind the building instead of craning over, because originally there was 2 crane lifts, now there's only 1. So I'm doing everything I can to minimize the intrusiveness of this.
okay.
But it will only be 1 visit as of right now for those 2. And I will have a lift plan from them. I will have a crane plan from Max Crane Service that will actually be doing it. We've spoken to them about that, and all that will be certified, filed with us along with the crane operators. Certificates.
So these dumpsters and temporary toilets on West Richardson's expected to be there 5 to 6 months.
I'm sorry, I missed
These temporary toilets, it looks like there's 2 temporary toilets and a first aid center and a dumpster and an existing parking on West Richardson. That's expected to stay there for 5 to 6 months.
Yes, where the dumpsters sit specifically out front, cutting out the interior slab of the building and removing it. I'm going to pull the trucks on the side and get the heavy debris out in the early mornings. This will strictly be for like hand removal and trash cans and stuff like that. Just 1 dumpster on site. Originally we were hoping for 2, but I narrowed it down to 1 30-yard container. And that's just the price of doing it. You know, I've got to have some way to dispose of the material during the process of doing it to keep it nice and neat and orderly. I'm going to push that back in the furthest parking space is my request. Basically where the building ends, it would be within the building footprint, push back, and the blue area is strictly where I would like to cone off to allow a truck to back in to remove that container as needed, just to prohibit anyone from parking through that removable gate to block in, the actual container to where it couldn't be removed and serviced properly. And the same thing goes for the temporary toilets. That's going to require proper service, especially being downtown right there. So that blue area yet again gives me a staging area to get the trucks in, get them serviced and get them out quickly. But yes, it would stay there for the duration of the project.
Which is exactly in front of my office.
Correct.
And this orange area in here in the back, that's where you're going to be laying down the new underground pipe, is that right? Or what exactly are you doing here? Moving the breaker service or?
So the orange area specifically in front of the parking garage, that is just for a laydown area because there's no adjacent property. And because this is DMX and lot line to lot line built, there's no physical property to stage any material. So a load of 2x4s comes in, a piece of machinery is delivered. All that stuff has to be staged and so the truck can get off the street. So it could be parked there or staged there before entering the building. It just keeps it flow. It keeps traffic from piling up. And then also, the safety concern as well. Things can be moved when they need to be moved and not forcibly moved quickly and kind of on the fly.
So why aren't the toilets and the dumpster going back there?
Mainly because the dumpster will cause way too much damage and because I would have to remove the bicycle racks and everything. And those are cemented in. So in order to get a full 30-yard container on that area, you would have to you'd have to do some pretty major changes to be able to fit the dumpster there. Now the temp toilets, that's an option. I just put those out there because they're closer to the road and easier to service. But I'm more than happy to visit putting those back there. I have no problem with that. It's kind of an either or situation as long as they're, able to be reached by the team fairly easy.
I know the coffee shop was here 2 months ago and complained about parking in this area, that they have an issue with parking. I know Bexley has had an issue. I have had an issue and I feel like that would affect all of our businesses in that area and it would I think, look better and not affect those businesses as much if it went in an area that has no parking, such as Central Avenue right there, where there's no parking already in that area.
And this plan is very misleading when it shows the size. If you go over there and look at the actual size of the laydown area, it's about as big as where we're sitting, like where the trees buffer come out. The edge of the parking garage to the edge of trees, I lose 15 feet, 10 feet, it's really just the little bit of grass in the middle. So, a 30-yard container is almost as long as this room. So it's impossible to fit a container there. I would have to put it in the street and thus block traffic. That's almost the only place to put it. And then as far as the temp toilets and our AFib machine, and that's just going to be basically a first aid kit, a larger one that's set up. There's a removable bollards that are on the corner with the cross hatches. Those are not physically slated to be in a parking space. They would be on that corner in that kind of wasted space that's hatched off on that hard turn going into Short Central.
And you said that approximately this would be set up for 5 months, that container?
Maybe longer. Possibly 6 to 6.5 months.
That's you're gonna need that through your interiors.
Exactly. As soon as you're done with the shell, then we start with the upfits on the interior, and there's 2 tenants. There's one tenant A side with a demising wall and then a tenant B side. One's 3,800 square feet. The other one's 1,400 that make up the full square footage of the building. And it's a fairly intrusive build. We're cutting the building in half. I have to remove all the back walls. There's major safety concerns. Like it's not just some 2x4s. It's extremely intrusive. all the interior slab is being removed. I mean, there'll be several pieces of equipment inside the building for a fairly long period of time. In order to save it in any degree, that's what has to be done.
I know how this is gonna affect all of those businesses right there, so I can't vote on it.
And I would like to add, the fencing is put in place to not only allow safety, but to give, you know, with a nice windscreen around it and everything, it would be just like any project. I've set this up exactly how I've done every project I've ever done in downtown Charleston. So it's very close to that application, closer to kind of anything that we've seen in downtown Summerville. And that's what it requires just for the safety of the general public. I've already reached out for my DOT encroachment permits, you know, and following the letter of the law on all of those things as well. And doing everything we can to make it as business friendly as possible, but and attractive as possible. You know, I know there's a lot of events. I've engaged Steve Doninger with Dream, you know, cleaning up before events, making sure that the windscreen stays intact, temporary fence stays intact. You know, just doing everything we can, you know, on the public side as well as the construction and safety side, to help everybody.
One question, I was talking about these orange arrows. And I see them going down the side of, I can't remember the names of these business, Greenfields, Gifts. Was that just showing the direction that these vehicles that are coming in would exit?
So the only reason I put those on there was just to show where you would pull in to get to the staging area. They can continue through or back out to the street. Most will not be able to pull through there, just so you know.
Oh,
So
okay.
most of the trucks that are going to be delivering will have to back out because they won't be able to make that turn. I just, you know, threw that in there to show a direction.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I know one of the issues we have now is the owners of these buildings, a lot of people go through where you have these arrows.
Understood.
And they're only for those people that are actually parking at their business to exit, or because in the backside, part of that is private property and it's not really a thorough way. So,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yeah, I will say all of our standard trucks, you know, will be using parking garage. I'm sure the subcontractors as well will find street parking in, you know, the parking garage, you know, and a mixture of all those things to stage materials and then go park adjacent.
Okay.
So yeah, we will not be using that at all for any normal traffic other than just the, you know, yet again, showing the flow to kind of get people in and then get people back out.
Okay, and I would almost ask during the construction process, those that are coming in to work, if they would go all the way up to the roof to park.
Absolutely.
And not on the other levels, so we could keep that for our the people that are coming downtown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Or move that we move the lease agreement to full council for discussion with the recommendation for approval. This building's going to be, you know, if we look at every building every building in downtown Summerville, they all could use a little bit of TLC. This one, unfortunately, is for us to save it, like you said, it's going to take doing that. I remember we almost had to get rid of, we had discussed having to get rid of this building because it was in such bad shape. But you know, you guys have come on board to, and are going to be able to save it, which I think is a true positive to our downtown historic district. So in that sense, to me, we got to do everything we can to make sure we're able to make that happen. I feel for the businesses that are going to have impacts from this. It's going to be painful. There's no question, but you know, with every progress, there's a little bit of pain to get you there. And unfortunately, this is one of those situations where there's going to be a little bit of pain to get to the finish line. So
We had pain with Hutchinson Square.
we did.
Well,
We did,
and
yes.
we will do, you know,
Yeah,
everything we
and
can to
yeah,
remedy that.
absolutely.
You know, I mean, we 100% will, you know,
No,
this
yeah,
is not our first time. This is
right.
what we do. And
A lot of respect to you guys for y'all taking the time to really kind of put a lot of thought into it
Yeah,
too.
thank
Do
you.
appreciate that.
And I do appreciate y'all restoring that building too. I worked there like 20 years ago and I think it's a good building and I am looking forward to the new restaurant coming in there. I will say that. So,
absolutely. And we are going to take, you know, extra care to maintain any preservation we can. We're going to save all the heart pine ceiling within it. We're along with the developer, and I want to give him credit. He is pumping the money in necessary to truly restore the building and make it something special. So.
It's good to hear.
All right, well, we have a first, a motion to move to full council. Do we have a second? Yeah, he gave the motion.
Oh, you made a motion.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, so all in favor to send to full council? Aye.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much. But I guess we have another
Yeah.
discussion with you.
I have to
Stay
stick
right
around. All right, the next item is discussion of a request to bore underneath the parking garage to connect to the electrical transformer. I believe you have an exhibit of this as well. Gilbert and Lee has gotten a structural engineer and geotechnical engineer to provide documents of, that this would be okay, but it is just that it's underneath the parking garage. So we need to have, direction on and let y'all be aware.
And so
And
who
approve it.
holds the insurance on
Yes.
that?
Liability.
Us or them?
I mean, we definitely have a great insurance policy.
Yeah.
So, and just to put, Bonnie did send me the structural drawings for the parking garage. They have been reviewed by the structural engineer and myself. The structural engineer, obviously within his letter, that building is on a deep foundation, as we call it. So compression and tension concrete piles with different pile cap sets, which transfer the weight all the way to the moral layer of the earth. So this little drill that goes through is not going to impact anything. If it actually hits a piling, it can reverse, articulate the head and go around it. So it's not a big pile drive or anything like that. It's a little small skid machine that you probably see on the side of the road all the time and don't even notice it. They're not very intrusive at all. And I kind of compare it to, there's uninsulated, unpressurized, sanitary sewer lines underneath that parking garage, and they impact it none, along with gopher holes and everything else. So, I mean, it will not affect the parking garage in any way, shape or form. And we've done our due diligence for the depths and the elevations. I've looked at the fire riser. I know the rise of the fire riser coming in, the basic utility heights. And based on our HDD, which is horizontal directional drilling, and the consultant that's out there, as well as the soil consultant, we believe it shouldn't be any problem to pop up right on that other side. And Bonnie and I walked through, there's a little test pit that will have to be dug in order to incorporate and bring that HDD drill bit back up into that test pit and then go back over to the transformer. But it'll supply proper power to the building, essentially. In order to make the building viable, that has to be done. There's just not enough power to the building to. And we did look at alternate routes, and the only other alternate route is going up the sidewalk, down next to the sculpture, through the handhole where all the electrical comes in for all of the buildings, including town hall.
And we're not going overhead.
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. This was by far the least intrusive route. I know it's a little scary, but it will not be a problem.
And if you do happen to strike oil, it belongs to the town.
Yes, for sure.
Works. I would move to send this to full council with a recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
All right, first and second on send it to full council. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
The last item on the agenda is the discussion of a DOT request to quit claim to the town 48.5 acres along the Berlin G. Myers Parkway. There's also an exhibit that goes along with this. It is 24 parcels. And DOT, similar to I want to say it was a couple months ago. Oh, do y'all not have an exhibit?
No.
Oh,
Thanks.
several months ago, DOT wanted to quit claim and it was approved, parcels near on the phase 3 of the parkway, near the Summerville Country Club. So it would be something similar.
Knowing that there's a deed restriction on the property, I think that we need to work with DOT and the Corps to get that deed restriction removed so we can use it for parks, passive purposes before we agree to that. So I don't know if we move that to council or if we can just go ahead and say,
Just say to get back with DOT and say,
Yeah, I think.
we could have this conversation if those restrictions are removed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty restricted. We can't do much with it, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we speak with DOT and the Corps of Engineers to try and get those deed restrictions removed at this time.
Second.
All right, all in favor then?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Movement to adjourn,
I move we adjourn.
all in favor of adjournment? Oh,
Aye.
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 All right.
Quick five.
Dang. Yeah. I'll read those. Okay. I mean, in my initial run, it's gonna put, you're just gonna go back with the 8%. Initial run. Calculate the numbers, but I don't know if you would make the math work and probably. That's.
Now you-
All right, I think we have everybody here to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. And we'll turn it over to Miss Rhonda.
Good evening. This is my favorite month of the year. I get to report that our revenues exceeded our expenses for the month. I think it's only a rare month or two that actually happens. So I'm happy to say we collected just over $10 million for the month. Our year to date is almost 25 million. Our expenditures for the month 3.6 and our year to date of 32. The transfers in our hospitality. So for the month, our revenues exceeded our expenditures by $7 million. We're still at a deficit year to date of about 4 million. As far as revenues, the most of that revenue was property taxes. We've collected pretty much almost 100% of what we're going to get from Dorchester County. There'll be a little bit that will come in the next couple of months, but most of that from Dorchester, Berkeley, and Charleston are completed. Our license and permits, we had some business licenses are starting. There's some permits that came in. We collected 232,000 for license and permits for the month. Courts and fines, we collected 22,000 for the month. State revenues, our local option sales tax came in this month for 822,000. Miscellaneous revenues, we had approximately 159,000. Most of that consisted of our interest income of 108. Again, our H-tax of almost 292,000. That brings our total revenues to the 10.7. Any questions, comments on the revenues, general fund?
Yeah, the business license penalty at 192% of the budget. Can you explain that to me, please?
I don't typically budget a lot in the penalties. I hope that most of our businesses don't have to pay penalties and that they pay on time. So some of it could be some of code enforcement reaching out to somebody who's severely delinquent. And I don't, so I under budgeted on that particular item. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I
That's
was
fine.
reading.
Okay, let's get to that. All right, impact fees. We collected approximately 80,000 in impact fees across residential and commercial for the month. Our year-to-date total in both of those categories are just over $1 million. I think in March so far, we've collected another 60. I know that there's several developments on the books that we expect to be getting some significant fees in the next couple months. No expenses for the month. I do still have to transfer, cover some of the fire station 6 expenditures out of this fund. Probably do that next month. Any questions about impact fees?
Run that, you said backing up to that, to the fire impact fees of 64,000 is going to be for the most part used.
Yes, so
Okay.
the 469 plus the 64.
Okay.
That will be allocated toward the Station 6
Last.
construction that is presently recorded in the general fund. So
Okay.
it'll reduce those expenditures
Okay.
and reclassify them here.
Right.
And the 161,000 currently in Parks and Rec, do we have that already allocated?
Some of it. And I don't know, I can't tell you specifically which projects. That was kind of on I just told Lisa this week, I said, I think I want to keep a list on this particular report so we can kind of see what's been approved and what's been encumbered out of these particular funds.
Can we ask Amy if she knows about which projects are allocated out of that Parks and Rec impact fee right now?
Yes. So yeah, the Gahagan expansion, which is on the mid-year capital report to be approved, that would be the only other thing I think that's out of there.
And that's around 100,000, right?
Yes, that's correct. Okay, next is hospitality and local accommodations. For February, our revenue is about the same. Our expenses were about 100,000 more because we had a bond interest payment that was paid during February. So our monthly deficit was about 10,000. Year to date, our revenues exceed our expenditures by 57,000. Again, our expenses include the transfer to the general fund. And our revenues are tracking right on what we think will end up right at $6 million for the year for hospitality. Local accommodations, those revenues are pretty consistent, 28,000 for the month. And we had expenses of 107. I can't remember specifically what that was, but we have started allocating some of our capital that are specifically related to tourism to the accommodations tax. It looks like we'll be pretty close to 400,000 for annual revenue on the local accommodations. Any other questions, comments on that? The last report is the Stormwater Management Fund. Again, this is another fund that the revenue comes in via the tax bill through Dorchester, Berkeley, and Charleston counties. So we have collected most of what we will receive. We collected 1.4 million from the current period and had expenditures of 167. So year to date, we're still, we're above water at 1.1, but we'll be spending that down for some expenditures for the next several months. Any questions, comments?
And we'll be spending that through the general fund, correct? We'll be transferring that. Is that right?
I don't think I budgeted for any of that. We'll be spending it for their normal operating expenses for each month, for March, April, May, and June. So they'll, roughly $200,000 a month. So they won't have, they may have a couple $100,000 left over as a surplus.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, when we talked at our mid-year budget review, we had, one of our goals was to look for things that we needed to spend our ARPA funds on, as they need to be exhausted by the end of the year. We had a lot of different things. We had a lot of different funding sources. So I tried to break this into kind of 3 digestible sections. One with just the ARPA fund recommendations, the other approvals which came from other funds, and then a couple of items that really need your discussion. I will note that on this first sheet, there are a couple of items in red. The prices changed, or we got clarifications on prices. So I wanted to make sure that I brought those to your attention because they are different than what you viewed a few weeks ago. I will mention that the crew cab for Mr. Campbell was left off of the list entirely. That was my fault. I added it to this list because I think it's something he needs, but I wanted to bring it to your attention so that you had ample opportunity to know that it's there. So I won't necessarily go down this list because I think you've all seen this list. You've talked about this list, but I'm happy to entertain any questions. This does not exhaust all the funds, but I really would kind of like to keep a little bit of that just because I like to have a little extra, and you never know what might come up. And we still have budget retreat to talk about, and some of these prices can obviously change too.
Thank you, Ms. Rhonda. For the council members, I think it'd be good if we could manage our discussion around one section of this. So if we focus on the mid-year budget request for ARPA, that's page 1. We can ask questions about that and take any maybe action there, and then we'll move on to the other pages if you're acceptable to that. Just keep us organized.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Rhonda? All right.
Do we want to take action on this now, or I would move we approve these expenditures as listed on the sheet?
I'll second.
All right.
I
mo-
I do
motion
have
is
some
second.
questions.
Any discussion? Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
Sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're fine.
Under streets, I know we're purchasing a few things, which I know we need. We've got a lot of old equipment. Some of these say that we'll be surplusing items and others do not say that we're surplusing items. Is Mark still here? Oh. If I can ask the 2011 Freightliner that we're buying a new one of those, is the current one not running?
Yes, that's a trick question. It runs sometimes, but it's not something that we're keeping in service. We're trying to get it out and we'll surplus it as well.
So that will be surplus.
Yes.
And then the 2002 Timeco sweeper.
Yep, that'll be surplus. Most of those, let me think. Most of those will be surplus up there.
Okay. Which one are we not surplusing?
So the Ford, the one that was put up there recently, the 4-door crew cab.
Mm-hmm.
We need to keep as many of those as possible. We will probably be surplusing a 2-door truck. Is my plan to move it out once this comes in. I don't know if I have that on that sheet, but we have another truck that we're getting rid of.
Okay, that's the 2-door 2004.
Yeah, we're just going from a 2-door to a 4-door.
Okay. That's all for streets.
Okay.
And then, for the police department, do we know the age of the in-car video cameras now that we're replacing?
Yes, ma'am. So currently, we left DVR. And we're now into the cloud. This is going to be moving us into the cloud, technology. And they're anywhere between 5 and 8 years old, but they are not making those anymore. So this will be the beginning of the outsourcing them to put those out to sell to other organizations that may not have the technology or the ability to buy what we need to move forward.
And with the cloud technology, we should be able to update them and keep them for a long time, I'd imagine, right?
Yes, ma'am, for the life of the car. So from 5 to 10 years.
Okay. That's all. Thank
Yes, ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
And then one question for the fire department, please. The box truck that we have on there that we're purchasing, I think you and I previously spoke about that, so I knew that. I see we also have the 24 Silverado that we're purchasing as well. Will those be at different stations or?
The 24 Silverado, that's going to be one of our, he's be our special operations chief. So he's the one that actually is going to be managing the box truck. He does all of our special operations stuff. So when we got hired on several years ago, he didn't, we kind of gave him a backup vehicle. So this will be his vehicle that he'll be transporting equipment, all kind of stuff with it. So.
Okay. Both the box truck and the Silverado?
Yeah, the box truck is going to be more than likely housed in one of our stations. We haven't decided which one yet. But the Silverado, is going to be his back and forth vehicle. And he'll be able to use it on just about any incident that he needs to go to.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other questions on ARPA funding approvals on page 1? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I will just add, if I can make another comment, is this an okay time? Okay. This was ARPA funds, so we're not going to have that in the future. So we should really be mindful going forward when we look to budget as to how we're going to fund a lot of these things in the future, since we're not going to have those funds anymore. So.
Excellent point. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay, the next section are some of the items that y'all discussed, and we had assigned other funding sources to this group. The first item is the wayfinding signs. We have $300,000 assigned to that. I'm not sure that it will be quite that much, but felt like that could be funded with either A-tax or H-tax. We're going to coordinate that with Dorchester County. The expanding the Gahagan yard, we have that at park impact fees. As the town has grown and more facilities are needed, Parks and Rec needs a place to store some of their equipment and other things. That is park impact fees. The excavator, we anticipate to be funded with stormwater fund balance of 186, along with the Ford 250 pickup and the Nissan Frontier pickup from stormwater.
Do I hear a motion or any questions?
Just one question. Amy, you, are we doing any kind of building in the future? I guess future building plans with that expansion? Or that's just, what are we doing there? That's a metal building? Okay, okay. That's what I was wondering about. If that was a building or just fencing or something, I wasn't sure.
I'll make a motion. We approve those expenditures.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions on these 5 items?
Well, the Trailblazer and the John Deere, is that going to be salvaged as well?
I don't know. I could not get in touch with Ryan late this afternoon to find out.
Do we know why we're replacing the Trailblazer?
I assume just age and wear and tear, given the age, but I don't know the answer to that.
All right, any other questions?
It's not that I'm in disagreement necessarily, but I don't necessarily want to vote to approve something if I don't know why we're replacing it, or if it's not running, if it can be fixed, and if it'll be salvaged.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 1 opposed. And we'll go on to the 3rd page, Ms. Rhonda.
Okay, the 3rd page is 2 items which we do not have a funding source for, and wanted to put that out there for discussion to all of you. The first is assisting the homeless shelter. They have, I think they requested, the number we landed on was 250,000. I think that was a request. Dorchester County is trying to help as well. We are kind of just lost with where we can pull this from, if at all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, any comments or questions? I know we discussed this at the mid-year budget retreat, but
Mr. Mayor, I've got one question. Not on the Dorchester County Community Outreach, but on the Central Avenue sidewalks, you've got 200,000. And you need another 400,000 or something?
no, sir, this 200,000 would give us the funding that we project it will cost. But I believe until we have bids and we really don't know the exact cost. So if I understand this correctly, we would be requesting a commitment to fully fund the project up to this level while we seek out other funds to support this project in order that we could bid the project at this point in time and get this project moving that's been kind of
That was my
bogged down.
next question. So we're gonna get started, but we don't have enough money to finish or finish the thing. So we still hoping to get some money, I think, from Dorchester County.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have we gotten any feedback from them yet?
I believe we'll be discussing it at our joint meeting, April 16th.
So we're gonna go ahead and let this out for bid, then, this project, yeah, that's,
Just to keep things moving
yeah, I know, 100%.
and lock in a price.
Yeah, that's just talking to Kim about the, the Lee Street sidewalk that we missed. I don't just want to see us fall into that trap again where we miss a good opportunity. And then I want to pick that one back up again, because I think that's an important piece that we should be working on to
And
connect
while,
a huge neighborhood to the Sawmill Trail on the Baker Ridge roadside. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So-
I was thinking the same thing. At this point, I just think that the Central Avenue sidewalk, we need to complete before we go back to the Lee Street, just because more people are going to be using this. And a question I have about the 250 for homeless shelter, is that a request from Dorchester County, or is that a request from the homeless shelter itself?
I'm gonna look to the
That-
administrator.
Okay, I was gonna say, I can share that, gosh, I think it was over a year ago that we originally got a request from Dorchester County. And that request was for $500,000. At that time, council didn't make a decision. And I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually had Dorchester County Community Outreach approach me and ask that council again consider some funding for this project.
Okay. I mean, because I look at these two numbers and I think, well, wow, they're asking for 250. If we had an extra 200 to finish our sidewalk, which we don't, and then they're asking us for 250 for the homeless shelter. But we haven't heard anything, if they're going to donate anything towards the sidewalk. I think it's definitely something that we need to talk about, because then I think about where the homeless shelter is going again, and there's no sidewalk. And how are these people going to get back and forth to this homeless shelter with no sidewalk?
I do know from speaking to them that this is over $1 million to build, and they have talked to the counties and various fundraising and all they're doing as well. And our population, homeless population, is certainly growing in Summerville. But I agree with you, the sidewalks there are an issue. I did email councilman for North Charleston about possibly budgeting some funds in their budget for sidewalk on Gahagan Road right there. Gahagan Road, some of Gahagan Road, and he was gonna get back to me, but I haven't heard.
So we really don't need any action here then, I guess, currently
Well,
to put out a bid.
I would say if we are going to go out to bid on the Central Avenue sidewalk, we may want to give some direction to staff.
I actually have that later on in the agenda.
Okay.
So that
Oh,
you
that's
all
right.
can just authorize us to draw down the 400,000 and to go ahead and bid that out. We can certainly hold off on a decision here as far as allocating funding until we know what that shortfall is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
And just when we are bidding that Central Avenue sidewalks, if they can remember crosswalks in there as well.
all right. I guess we'll visit that at the mid-year budget retreat or later in this agenda.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Any other questions for Ms. Rhonda?
Do we want to bring this up at the mid-year budget adjustment, these two items?
You mean at our
And I'm
upcoming
sorry,
budget meeting?
budget
Yeah. Budget review. I know we got
I
too many
said
budget
mid-year, my bad.
meetings. We can certainly add both of these items to
I think it'd be
the
good for
budget
discussion.
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, in April.
And that would hold up the Central Avenue sidewalk project though, right?
No, we can go ahead and bid that out and draw down the 400,000. And then once we know what the shortfall is, once we get that bid amount, then we can revisit on how we're going to fund that deficit. And hopefully by then we will have a partner on this project.
That'd be good.
And I know we always have a lot of sidewalk requests.
and, planning sidewalks is not my area, but, I really feel like maybe we really need to get a comprehensive list, maybe a sidewalk survey or something. And because permitting takes time, funding, we need to know what the funding is so we can ask our partners, for all that. I think that would just help and make sure it's on the CIP, because we can use, impact fees for infrastructure. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rhonda.
Request to surplus and sell the following police department vehicles: Unit 284, 2015 Dodge Charger with 104,481 miles, and Unit 286, a 2015 Dodge Charger with 106,218 miles.
I move we-
Make a motion that we salvage these two vehicles.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Request to surplus and sell the following stormwater equipment: WM 95, 2003 John Deere 310 SG backhoe. The proceeds to be deposited to the stormwater fund balance upon receipt, and the WM 98, a 2006 Case CX 80 medium-sized excavator. Funds to be deposited in stormwater fund balance upon receipt.
Move to approve surplus on both items 1 and 2.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Request to transfer from the police department to the town prosecutor's office for the victim advocate the following vehicle: Unit 338, a 2017 Ford Taurus with 56,508 miles.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we request this transfer from the police department to the victim's advocate.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Authorization to issue a purchase order to Cooper Motor Company in the amount of $84,655 for a 2024 Ram 3500. This is on state contract. The funds to come from budget ARPA funds, and the request is from the Parks and Rec Department.
I'll make a motion that we approve this purchase.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Authorization to issue a purchase order to Brandon Motor Company in the amount of $59,990 for the purchase of a 2024 Silverado 2500 for the fire department. Funds to come from budget ARPA funds.
I'll make a motion, we approve the purchase.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Authorization for staff to spend up to $15,000 of Parks and Recreation impact fees for the design of a custom concrete skate park.
I'll make a motion that we move this to the budget
Second,
retreat
Mr. Mayor.
for priority.
All right, motion and a second to move to the budget retreat. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Authorization to accept a $400,000 grant from SCPRT and to solicit bids for the Central Avenue Sidewalk Project, with the understanding that the town will continue to seek additional funding for the anticipated shortfall from other sources.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Authorize the town administrator to execute an agreement with the First Circuit Public Defender's Office to provide indigent defense services.
Mr. Mayor, we are actually still working through the terms of that agreement, so, I would ask that council defer this until Thursday.
Move to defer till Thursday, this item until Thursday night at the regular council meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?